Hello and welcome to Your Health Reclaimed. This is your host, DrPND, and today we are going to talk about a very, very important topic that I've spoken about quite a bit before. It's very near and dear to my heart and something that has been quite a bit overlooked and not really honestly spoken enough about. As simple as it is, I believe a lot of people still miss the boat and misunderstand what it really means. Today we're talking about nutrient deficiency. What do nutrient deficiencies actually mean? And I want to talk about a couple of theories that are really, honestly, not even theories. They're proven fact that have a lot to do with micronutrient deficiencies. So before I begin and get into the specifics, nutrition, as you guys know, is honestly the most important aspect, and in any healing journey, whatever that might be. If you don't address the nutrition, nothing else is going to change. This is the bottom line. So that is the fundamental basis and the most important foundation that has to be laid first and foremost. So when we talk about nutrition, we're talking about macronutrients and micronutrients primarily. The macronutrients we're going to really not discuss here so much because most people, do a good job, relatively speaking, excuse me, and take care of those. And that is the fats, the proteins, and the carbohydrates, what they are known as macronutrients. Specifically, that I want to talk about the issue today is addressing micronutrient deficiencies. So where the problem really began was actually with the advent of food processing, starting somewhere mid to late 1800s, with the processing of flour, vegetable oils, and sugar. I'm not going to get into the specifics. I'm not going to get into the history of it. Now, that's something we can do perhaps another time. But ultimately, when they started to process food, and that was, the reason for that was to extend shelf life and also to ultimately make a product that it can have a very long survivability rate, which in famine and war and stuff like that could definitely come in handy very short term. Unfortunately, with processing and ultra processing of food, the consequence of that was micronutrient deficiencies occurred. Ultimately, when you process food, you take out very vital micronutrients, things like vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, enzymes, and so forth. So when processed food began to be a staple, in our society, the nutrient deficiency began to pile up, and each and every successive generation started to ultimately, experience that effects of those deficiencies. And if you look at now, kids with, born with, autism and having a different myriad of problems. If you look at just the general physical debility and degeneration of our society, the obesity rates, the heart disease epidemic, the cancer, obviously, high blood pressure, which is part of heart disease, and all those, other chronic diseases that we're seeing, they are nothing more than just the ultimate cause of nutritional deficiencies that have really damaged the physiology of the person. And again, these deficiencies, they mount up not over time, but also over the numerous generations that people have been going through. So since the late 1800s, early 1900s, when processed foods began to become prevalent and more exponentially, more and more consumed readily, and part of the daily diet of the American population, the more those chronic diseases have really rapidly increased. So what happens when you process food? Well, you have to remove the nutrients from there, or most of them, because they're the one that they spoil. So that is just part of it. So when you remove that and you're eating those processed foods, you have, depending on the processing of the food and how much is processed, you have a very limited to sometimes no micronutrient profile whatsoever, vitamins, minerals, and stuff like that. So the first person to really officially speak about that on the public level, there was a gentleman, he's a medical doctor named Harvey H. Wiley. He was, I believe, the head of the board of directors of the former FDA, or known as Food and Drugs of America. In 1905, I believe, I have his original book, by the way, that he spoke out with a few of his colleagues openly and warning people, look, it's okay to have those foods, for calamity, for famine, for, war, obviously, but they cannot be part of the daily, even weekly part of the, Americans' diet for people. They just can't, because they lack nutrition and they can have problems. And he saw those, things. I mean, he was a medical doctor. He saw them a long time ago. And he started warning people along with his colleagues, and they ousted him, as they usually did. He wrote a book eventually, which actually was just shy of being officially published. And, he didn't really get much done. Right on with the 1930s, I believe, a gentleman, a brilliant scientist and a doctor named Dr. Royal Lee came out, and he's the first person actually to start an official supplement company. And a lot of people noticed in the process that he knew of the deficiencies. He knew the dangers that those foods were, and so he started making whole food-based supplements. He, of course, started speaking out against that, and he got persecuted pretty bad on many numerous levels. And over the decades, he spent a lot of money, a lot of grief, a lot of trouble, a lot of persecution that he experienced for speaking against processing of foods. So the processing of foods and ultra-processed foods, like some people call them, they're really nothing new. It's been going on for well over a decade, a century. And these foods have caused an insane amount of damage to our population. And if you don't believe me, look at it. The statistics now, I think we're over 64% of the US population has chronic disease. There's probably a lot of people that have been, undiagnosed yet. More than 50 people have 2 or more chronic diseases. Heart disease is still number 1 killer. And, despite all that, the processing of food still continues to take place. So that was just a quick breakdown, real quick, of the history of processed foods, which ultimately are nutrient deficient and cause nutritional deficiencies. So there's a thing called the triage theory of nutrient deficiencies. So how nutrient deficiencies lead to disease and premature aging. That's what I'm going to talk about today primarily. So when our bodies face a shortage of essential vitamins, minerals, or, antioxidants, or any micronutrients, or combination of, the bodies have to make a choice on how to use the limited supply. So the body will behave much like a crisis manager, okay? Something that, has to be decided which functions to be prioritized and which to be neglected based on immediate survival and reproductive needs. The body will always provide the ability and prioritize its ability to survive. So our body, again, will prioritize the use of scarce vitamins, minerals, antioxidants for protein and enzymes that are crucial for immediate survival and reproduction. Again, so meanwhile, proteins and enzymes and other important molecules that are important for the long-term health and function of the body, they will be put on hold. So that will help prevent gradual damage, and that might contribute to bone strength or cardiovascular health, for instance, and they will receive fewer of these nutrients. So because of longevity proteins that are neglected during shortages, damage accumulates slowly over time, typically without any obvious symptoms at first at all. But over time, this ongoing damage will lead to disease commonly associated with premature aging. Things such as osteoporosis, osteopenia, sarcopenia, heart disease, you name it, which honestly have become apparent only later in life, but they start long time before that. There was a paper that was published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, PNAS, PNAS. It explains the triage theory provides a unifying rationale for why most vitamin mineral deficiencies insufficient to elicit overt symptoms of severe deficiency might contribute significantly to the aging process and the disease of aging. So ultimately, in a nutshell, the triage theory poses them a strategic rationing response has been selected through, I guess, the evolution of the bodily functions and processes, which will ensure that, when a moderate shortage of, micronutrients is encountered, the scarce micronutrients that are preferentially retained by those micronutrient-dependent proteins and enzymes that are essential for survival and reproduction. Such as proteins essential for early development and immediate survival. At the same time, those proteins and enzymes they're needed for maintaining long-term health. Excuse me, by preventing insidious damage or starved for those micronutrients that become increasingly inactive. Thus leading to an increase in disease of aging. A major aspect of degenerative aging is that the damage is very insidious and clinically not obvious because it accumulates slowly over a long period of time and is only apparent later in life. That's what we call in our industry subliminal or subclinical deficiencies. And the only way to really test for these is through proper tests, or if you know what to look for in signs and symptomology of the people that come and complain of certain issues. But mainstream medicine does not recognize those, and they will not acknowledge them. Everybody can recognize pellagra, scurvy, beriberi, which these don't really exist nowadays so much, especially in the United States, because either we have fortification of foods that kind of barely get people over the threshold minimum, or a lot of people obviously take certain vitamins and minerals and, or either somewhat decent healthy diet. They'll, for the most part, be covered on a very, very basic minimum. So that'll propagate with clinical diagnosable deficiencies. But those subclinical deficiencies is really what causes the damage long term. Okay, so like I said, a major aspect of degenerative aging is that the damage is very insidious and it's clinically really, really not obvious until later. So the connection, to micronutrient shortage is severely appreciated, in my opinion, and I believe a lot of my colleagues will agree to that. So, given that nutrient deficiencies are common, improving, our diet and using high-quality clinical-grade supplements is essential, especially if you have some kind of, ailment, an issue that you're trying to address. You just cannot have any kind of chronic disease or, issue that you will not have a form of nutrient deficiency. In true holistic health, in natural health, it is known that ultimately any kind of, issue with health is going to be caused by one and or two factors. Usually most is the both present at the same time, and that is a nutrient deficiency and or a toxicity of some kind. The toxicity can be exogenous, endogenous, or combination of both. Nowadays, almost always people will have an issue with a chronic disease of some kind with being nutrient deficient subliminally at a low grade subclinical level and some form of toxicity at the same time, whatever that might be. This, when you address that, you ultimately address the problem. So this is why it's very important to eat healthy, nutrient-dense foods. Foods that are, not only whole in the sense that they've not been processed, but also nowadays you have to make sure that you buy organic, that you know where your food is coming from. Because ultimately, if the soil and the conditions that that food has been grown on does not contain the proper vitamins and minerals and antioxidants and nutrients that your body needs, the plant or the food in general itself is not going to contain that, or it's going to have a limit to it. So, it is important to buy certified organic, to know the sourcing of those certified organic products. Imports can have a lot of problems because the regulations are minimal to non-existent, places like China and, other places that they get imported from. So, preferably buy from the United States. And that unfortunately, it's only going to guarantee you that you're not going to have toxins in your food. But when I say guarantee, I'm, hypothetically speaking, there's nothing 100% guaranteed, but at least you're going to be a lot more assured that you will not have, herbicides, pesticides, fungicides, artificial fertilizers, and other chemicals that are just going to help you, to be potentially damaging to your system. But generally speaking, overall, organic, foods are more nutritious, have a higher nutrient density than the non-organic counterparts. But of course, that again, there's nothing guaranteed. So make sure that wherever you source your food from, and understand, how it was grown. And I understand some people that can be tough, but at least now we have a lot of options. There's a lot of online places that have tremendous amount of high quality, seafood, meats, dairy. There's places that make phenomenal, high quality breads and grains and so forth like that. And vegetables and fruits. So it is important to have a high nutrient dense diet. In addition to that, if you have clinical deficiency, oftentimes, you'll have to supplement. There will be really no way around that. When you have subclinical low-grade deficiency, and you have, issues, some kind of chronic disease, you'll definitely have to supplement. Generally speaking, most people will need some form of supplementation, depending on their lifestyle, depending on their, age, depending on kind of, work they do and what other issues they have. But if you want to be sure, get a comprehensive wellness panel, something that, we here at DrPND offer. And it's called DrPND Optimal Comprehensive Wellness Panel that we test for, all major, vitamins, minerals, nutrients, antioxidants, that are extremely vital. We also have a complete, what's called a lipid panel, lipid vitamin complex panel test that we look for every single one of the fat soluble, lipid soluble vitamins. A lot of people only test for vitamin D. Great, but how do you know if you're not doing the proper testing? How do you know that you're absorbing it? So there's another test you have to add to that. You have to look at vitamin E, vitamin K, vitamin A. All those things are important because they're working constantly with one another. So supplements are very important. I always get, asked the question, can we do it without diet? Well, if you have an optimal, very high nutrient dense diet that you perhaps grow yourself, or you have phenomenal resources to get very high nutrient dense foods, and you're not really dealing with any particular issues, yeah, you absolutely can. It might take a little bit longer, but you definitely can. But for most of us, we don't have that access. I can grow my food. I would love to live in a paradise and, phenomenal land that is very rich soil, and I can grow everything I want. All my animals are, there and clean and, fresh and, optimally raised, but just unfortunately, that's not reality. At least probably for, 99.99% of us is not a reality. As a matter of fact, I never really know anybody that, lives in a bubble like that. So nutrient supplementation is very, very important. Once you optimize your levels, and again, you're not going to sit there and guess, just test. And once you optimize those levels, then most of the supplements can, if not all of them, can completely be stopped. And as long as you have a very high nutrient dense, high quality diet, and you have a healthy lifestyle in general overall, you might not need supplementation ever. And if you do, you might go through a season perhaps that, hey, you might need a little bit of supplementation. You address it for, a few weeks, few months, whatever it takes, and come off again. But regardless, you'll never need when you started. But the message ultimately is that, we do need high nutrients. And that is important because a lot of people do not understand the fact that those subliminal, low-grade chronic nutrient deficiencies will cause chronic disease, will cause premature aging. People ask me all the time, well, what do you do for your skin? What do you do for your, hair and, nails and just, overall look or, muscle mass? And I always tell them it's addressing those nutrient deficiencies, always addressing those nutrient deficiencies that, make sure that you're on target at all times. Just like anything else, people always, look for on the outside, what kind of lotion or cream or peptide. there's nothing. It's everything's from the inside. And that's something there's a, it's a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people. Because unfortunately, a lot of people like to have their, proverbial cake and eat it too, and it will never work out in the long run. It just doesn't. I always ask a question: well, if I'm really not really willing to give up my alcohol and my smoke, and I like to really have fun on the weekends with friends, and pig out and eat whatever I really want, which obviously is processed food. They're not gonna sit there and eat, healthy food to oblivion. They're gonna eat something processed. I always tell them, you're better off to at least eat throughout the week very healthy and take more supplements than not. I also have those people that completely want to, do whatever they want, eat and drink whatever they want, and go about their merry way. And they always ask, well, can I supplement myself out of it? And I always tell them, no, you can't. You definitely can supplement, and you definitely can do some damage mitigation for sure. But you can never replace, real food. And that's why supplements are that. They are supplements. They're made to supplement a diet, just to help optimize the diet. So it's really important, for people to understand that. I really hope I get my message across, because as simple as it is, people always gravitate towards the latest and the greatest fad, protocol, program, diet, supplement, whatever it might be. Address the basics, address the fundamental basics, and you'll be amazed at how much improvement you'll see. I have seen people that I've worked over the years that, within 3-4 months, reverse, pretty heavy situations of just really truly addressing their lifestyle, their diet, and doing a proper supplementation. So make sure you really invest your time and money and effort into obtaining high quality, high nutrient dense whole foods. And second below that, invest in getting the right high quality clinical grade supplements that your body actually needs, and take those at appropriate doses. Unfortunately, the supplement industry is very loosely regulated, if at all. So buying stuff from online retailers and big box stores is not going to cut it. It doesn't, unfortunately. And it is important. They cost more money. There's no doubt about that. But you're going to pay for quality. I always tell people, you're better off. They'll come with an argument. Well, it's almost times and a half or twice as more expensive as something that I can get on the store or online. I tell them, it's like, you are better off taking half the dose that you need of a high quality supplement product than for you to eat or ingest garbage that you have no idea what's in it and what kind of benefit, if any, you're getting out of it. So just think about that. That's just something that I really want to encourage people to really think about. There's a really good book that a gentleman named Alfred Watterson McCann wrote in 1912. It's actually called Starving America, and talks about the processing of foods. I'm not just 1912, so kind of puts things in perspective of, those problems have been going on, as I said, well over a century ago, and are getting nothing. They're not getting better at all. It's getting honestly worse and worse exponentially every single year, and you can see that. You can see that with people. So it's an interesting read, easy read, but it just kind of puts things in perspective. Go to Weston Price Foundation. They really talk about whole foods and nutritional density. The Price Pottinger Foundation, that's another one. They have really awesome resources there as well. drroyald.com. I just really urge you to take this seriously and invest the time to do some research, to get yourself knowledgeable. And remember, I get this a lot. People say, well, eat clean. Eat cleaning means nothing. Eat cleaning is absolutely not synonymous with eating optimally for optimal health. As a matter of fact, oftentimes it's far from it. Clean eating is something that was an unofficial term that was started by the bodybuilding and fitness and physique industry, which actually some of those people are probably the most unhealthiest people you can probably even see. They might look great on the outside, but they're so rotten and sick on the inside is not even funny. And I know for a fact because one, not only personally know people in this industry, but also, used to compete myself. And I caught that early on. Thank God I got out of it. But it is absolutely not. So the clean eating thing was basically started. Tuscarino was the one who officially popularized it. That was Robert Kennedy's wife from Muslim Mag International. She started writing books and stuff like that. But that was basically, you take out the fat, take out the sugar, and, pay attention to your, macronutrients, the proteins, carbs, and the fats. And again, you can use a sugar-free, highly ultra-processed cereal, which has no fat, has no sugar, and you can use a highly processed, sugar-free, artificial sweetener laden and other chemicals laden whey protein. So now you have a very technically clean meal with carbohydrates and protein with no fat, no sugar, but it's loaded with chemicals and loaded with micronutrient deficiencies. So again, just really, really understand the fact what high nutrient density whole food diet is that is appropriate for you, and if you invest to that and really understand it and apply it to your life, I promise you that you will not be disappointed. So anyway, this is it for this episode. I try to keep it under 45 minutes. I'll keep working on keeping it even shorter. But I hope that you guys got the message. Please reach out to us, drpnd.com. Let us know if you have any questions. I can most certainly, point you to, some great resources that you can, read and learn from. If you guys want to do a optimal wellness panel to understand exactly where you stand as far as your, micronutrients, the inflammatory markers, many other, health markers that can really reveal a lot about your current state of health, contact us. We'll be glad to do so. You don't have to be an official client of ours to do that. I can prescribe that to anybody, and we'll gladly do so, as long as you're here in the, the United States of America. And you'll be amazed at what you find. It can be very educational and very eye-opening. But until next time, I hope you guys have a great day. Visit us at drpnd.com, and I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you.